Hello, my name is Joe Vodvarka, a small business owner, a manufacturer of springs and wire forms. I've never served public office in my life, and I'm running for the United States Senate. What you are seeing now is how I've earned a living, and at the same time, it's what is fast disappearing in America. That's manufacturing. A lot of people are saying that the burdensome government regulations are the main cause of problems for manufacturers, and to a degree they are. However, the other side of the coin is also our competition from abroad, which still has access to our market for their manufactured products, but nowhere near our standards. And that's what I want to change. In the world of politics, I'm a nobody. I've never served public office in my life, but in the past 40 years, I've been a small businessman, making the parts that you've just seen. There was a time when I employed about 10 people here. Now I'm down to my 2 sons and myself. And I can tell you, the biggest problem that American manufacturers face today is our trade policy. Free trade. No matter what kind of incentives you give manufacturers to set up in America, how do you compete with countries that are paying their workers less than $1 an hour? You just can't do it. It's impossible. You cannot compete. That's why I want to enact fair trade. I want to put a tariff on all these third world countries. I want to bring back the jobs to America. This will do it. About 20 years ago, we entered into NAFTA, a system quoted by Henry Kissinger for being, what Congress will have before it is not a conventional trade agreement, but the architecture of a new international system, a first step towards a new world order. Then not too far off from NAFTA was the formation of the WTO, and within a course of a decade, the workplace that Americans had known was drastically changed. Our workforce was put in direct competition with billions of people from countries such as China and India, countries that have extremely large populations and also extreme amounts of poverty. As long as our trade policy stays in effect and allows American corporations to move overseas and make products with cheap labor and ship them back to America, we will never again see a manufacturing base in America as I've once seen it. What made America great was our industrial might, our ability to manufacture. It created what made America the envy of the world, our middle class. If you learned a trade and were an entrepreneur with an idea, you could start a business of your own and do well. And in doing so, those around you also would do better. Manufacturing has that effect because by exporting goods, you are importing wealth. You are bringing in money from outside the community that will be recycled inside the community. That's what we've lost in America. It's been lost due to a perverted system of managed free trade deals designed to benefit the big corporations that outsource production from America and import those products back in. Our free trade policies have destroyed the middle class in America. And the middle class in America is what made America great. That's why we need fair trade. If we can get fair trade in, it will take care of a lot of problems, including underemployment, to creating jobs that pay $15 an hour. Plus, with taxes on the goods coming into this country, we can start paying down the national debt. Look at the violence around the country in the inner cities. This is because of idle hands. Instead of these kids going around the corner and finding trouble, imagine them going around the corner and finding jobs. If we could get the kids working and off the streets, just think how many lives we could save. But first, we got to enact fair trade. We got to bring the jobs back, and we will save a lot of lives. In this video, I want to tell you about the biggest problem we must correct, the realities of our trade policy, what the founders faced, including the best kept secret in American history, what a fair trade policy would look like. With regard to trade, we got to correct the problem with the country doing us the most harm, China. It's common knowledge that in China, labor is cheap, but what is doing more harm is their currency manipulation. The problem is that the value of the Chinese currency is not rising. It is being held low artificially by the People's Bank of China. When you buy a product that's made in China with American dollars, that money goes to the People's Bank of China, and they give the Chinese currency to the product's manufacturer. What they are not doing is putting those United States dollars back out on the market for what the market will bear. Instead, they hold our currency and print more of their own. This causes the value of their currency to be very low and the United States dollar to be more valuable, and also makes their products cheaper in America and ours more expensive in China. What they are doing is a form of subsidy for their exports and has been outlined by many organizations in depth. By law, the United States Treasury can label China a currency manipulator, and by doing so, Congress can begin laying tariffs on their goods. With the evidence available, this is what we should be doing. The one thing to keep in mind is our trade deficit. Since 2012, our trade deficits with China have been over $300 billion each year and over $200 billion each year since 2005. If the Chinese allowed their currency to float with the market, there would be more of an equilibrium in currencies and our trade deficit wouldn't have been so massive. If we had kept other countries in check with regards to trade policy and currency manipulation, then there would have been a lot more investment in America, and a lot of cheap products coming in from abroad wouldn't be so cheap. There will be people that say we should continue our current trade policy with China, pointing to the stock market as economic proof of the benefit from our free trade policies. The truth of the matter is that when a corporation moves its manufacturing to China, the working man in America loses his job. It is the working man that created the middle class. This summer, I went to an auction in Butler, Pennsylvania. This is a catalog from that auction. The company was Magnetics. They made electrical components. They employed over 400 people. In 2004, they set up operations in China. By 2007, the Chinese were sent to this country to learn how to do the jobs. Americans had to teach them how to do the jobs. Shortly after, they closed the company down. The auction was in 2015, this past summer. They had a skeleton crew working there that I talked to. And these people had to watch all the equipment that they had worked with for years be auctioned off. This is how they made a living, how they fed their families. I spoke with a guy running a forklift in the shipping department as he was moving parts that are now made in China with their company's name. What we have here, an example of free trade. These facts would only represent a small taste of the investment that has left America at a time when this great nation needs them the most. These are not low-skilled, low-paying jobs, but they are high-tech jobs, research and development, something that creates a lot of jobs. This is the bread and butter of the American economy. These jobs help smaller manufacturers build up workforces from tool and die makers to spring makers such as myself, not to mention other manufacturers that invest to scale up business and make an economy. When we lose these jobs, we are destroying our economy, which the root meaning of the word economy needs noted. It means house or home. We are in fact destroying our home. Our country has faced similar times, but these problems and the solution we came to are no longer taught and scarcely known. Often when the founders are brought up, they are associated with the Revolutionary War, or that they wanted free markets or free trade. But what's not mentioned are the problems that they faced after the war, including a massive foreign debt, foreclosures seemingly everywhere, a currency suffering from massive inflation, a flood of foreign-made goods coming into the country. Consider those facts for a moment. They are the current events of this great nation today. Under the Articles of Confederation, the Continental Congress didn't have the power to tax or to regulate the trade with foreign nations. This led to a push for a new form of government, a federal government formed with a constitution. Under this new form of government, two key powers were granted: the power to tax, the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations. And when the Constitution came into effect and the Congress's terms were enacted, what was the first act put in place by them? The best kept secret in American history, the Tariff Act of 1789, which reads, "Whereas it is necessary for the support of government, for the discharge of the debts of the United States and the encouragement and protection of manufactures, that duties be laid on goods, wares, and merchandise imported." Considering that this was the first bill passed by the new Congress, you would think that it would be taught in school. But my experience with talking to people on the streets is nobody has ever heard of it. For over the first century of the United States, tariffs were a large percentage of America's budget. And then came the invention of the income tax. When you hear that the founders were for free trade, look at their actions. The Tariff Act of 1789. Their actions speak louder than words. The American people need a win. Something that says we're going to turn things around for all future generations. This is what I propose. We withdraw from NAFTA, we withdraw from the World Trade Organization, we label China a currency manipulator and place a tax on their goods. To withdraw from these agreements takes a 6 months notice. So if we voted to withdraw, that legislation would include a 6 months reduction in tax to repatriate currency in foreign banks from 35% to 15%. Corporations could use that capital to invest and build in America. The tax revenue that we collect from this repatriation would be in the ballpark of $300 to $600 billion. All money collected in this manner would not be put into the general fund, but in escrow, and then used to pay down our debt with China. This would be a 2-for-1 deal for the American people. We'd be paying off the national debt and creating manufacturing jobs for the working man. This is something everybody could relate to. This legislation would also include a new corporate tax rate of 15%. If we create an environment where corporations are making money in America with American labor, then the working man will make money too. The Democrat Party was once the party of the working man, and I am one of them working men. But the party has changed. The working man has been sold out. In America today, there are over 90 million people not in the labor force. Many of the millennials aren't finding meaningful employment, and a lot of older Americans aren't retiring because they don't have enough savings. This all correlates to the loss of our manufacturing base in America and a government that has done little to address a failed trade policy. America needs to get itself in order, and that starts by getting people working again. And you only do that with a diverse economy, one that encourages manufacturers. The only way we're ever going to get government to start working for us again is to get the common person who has never served before in their life to represent us. I've never served public office in my life. I'm not looking for a new career. All I want to do is bring this great nation back to the way it was when I was a young man. If elected, I promise only to serve one term, with a main goal of enacting a fair trade policy and bring back as many manufacturing jobs to America as possible. If you believe in what I stand for, I can sure use your help. To get on a ballot, I need petition signatures from registered Pennsylvania Democrats. If you're a registered Pennsylvania Democrat and would be willing to sign a petition to get me on the ballot, it would be a great help. And that's even if it's only one signature. Believe me when I say I need as many as I can get. Also, if you would be willing to donate to this campaign, even if it is $1, whatever you could afford, I would really appreciate it. Our trade policy has affected millions of people in America. So if you have a friend or family member that has lost a manufacturing job, I'd ask that you share this video with them. Much of our media is controlled by big business. And if you control the info, you control the people. That said, the only way this message will be shared with America is if you share it with them. This is a message that has affected all of America, not just Pennsylvania. So let's spread it all over the country. Whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. I hope this video has given you a lot of info, and I thank you for watching it. While I enjoy time with friends and family, playing with my dog, and going fishing, but with the country the way it is, what I'd really like to do is be a United States Senator. Outside of working for my family, I've only worked for myself. But if elected, I would consider it an honor working for you. And when I serve my term and it's done, I'm going to go back into Macon Springs.